Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving right into the volatile, incredibly dangerous reality of 1977 South Africa. And to really grasp what went down, I want you to do something for me. Put yourself in the shoes of a local activist living through this history. We're going to trace everything from the simmering, tense unrest early in the year all the way to a totally devastating crackdown in October. Let's get started.
Okay, picture this. You're living through the exhausting aftermath of the massive June 1976 Soweto riots. It's tense. You're actively fighting an oppressive apartheid regime that is scrambling to keep control. Every single day feels completely fraught with danger. But you're also part of this incredible community where students and workers across every single province are literally putting everything on the line, boycotting schools and workplaces. It's insanely risky, but the sense of purpose is undeniable.
Section 1. Sparks of the Resistance. The ongoing defiance of 1977.
Now, looking at this timeline, you can see how tension was just steadily building all year. Sure, by mid-1977, the government kind of thought they had a lid on things, restoring their version of order, but the defiance? Oh, it didn't vanish. Not at all. It just went underground. It adapted. As an activist, you and your peers are basically bracing yourselves, just waiting for the other shoe to drop as September rolls around.
Section 2. The death of Steve Biko. A tragic spark.
Then September 12th hits, and everything changes. Devastating news spreads like wildfire through the streets. Black consciousness leader Steve Biko has died in police custody. The grief is it's absolute. Imagine standing in a crowd of 15,000 people at his funeral on September 25th. That's a massive gathering. And you're not just mourning with your neighbors, you're standing right there alongside the American ambassador and 11 other international diplomats. The whole world is suddenly right there in your township.
Of course, the government panicked. The reaction to this huge, unified gathering was incredibly swift and harsh. They slapped an immediate ban on all open-air gatherings, stretching all the way to March 1978. The goal was crystal clear, right? They wanted to totally crush your movement's momentum and strip away your ability to publicly mourn or organize.
Section 3. Global Outrage and Pressure. The World Watches.
But Biko's tragic death didn't just stay local. It put a massive global spotlight right on South Africa. To give you an idea of the scale, 128 bipartisan members of the U.S. Congress, Republicans and Democrats, were so furious that they penned a formal letter. They strongly urged the government to allow an international team to investigate the laws around political prisoners. Suddenly, the diplomatic pressure was just off the charts.
So, the apartheid government finds itself at a huge historical crossroads. Do they embark on genuine reform, or do they clamp down harder? Well, tragically, instead of taking the path of reform, they double down. They decide to forcefully bolster their control and completely silence the very voices calling for change.
Section 4. The October Crackdown. The hammer drops. As an activist, this is when your absolute worst nightmares come true. On October 18th and 19th, the cabinet completely drops the hammer. In a massive, sweeping move, roughly 70 activists are suddenly arrested in the dead of night. We're talking about your friends, your community leaders, including members of the highly respected Soweto Committee of 10, plus others like Daily Dispatch editor Donald Woods are formally banned from public life altogether.
Just look at this list. It is literally a tactical decapitation of your movement. Prominent black consciousness organizations were outlawed in the blink of an eye. You've got the Black People's Convention, student movements like SASO and SASM, journalists, the Black Parents Association, all gone. They systematically took a wrecking ball to everything holding your community's resistance together. In total, a staggering 18 organizations were banned in a single day. People call it Black Wednesday, October 19, 1977. And it wasn't just political groups. They even outlawed crucial safety nets like the Zimele and Siyazinsheta trust funds. It was a calculated move to completely isolate you, leaving activists totally vulnerable without any institutional support.
The international blowback? Immediate. These 5 nations, the US, the Netherlands, Great Britain, West Germany, and Belgium, they basically said enough and swiftly recalled their ambassadors for consultations in protest. It was a massive rebuke, making it crystal clear the world wasn't going to just look the other way while this crackdown happened.
Section 5. Silencing the presses. The voice of the townships.
Now, the crackdown didn't stop with the leaders. The government went straight for the everyday township residents by killing their platforms. 2 massive pillars of the community, the newspapers The World and The Weekend World, were entirely shut down.
Imagine waking up to find the only papers actually telling your story have just vanished into thin air. And the censorship didn't stop there. By October 28th, they tightened the noose even further with Act Number 19. Basically, this forced all newspapers to register with the government and follow a strict code of conduct or risk getting banned themselves. They were essentially demanding that journalists police their own reporting.
And here's the real kicker. To make sure these papers fell in line, the government created a massive financial chokehold. They demanded a deposit in the region of $40,000 just to be allowed to publish. That was an astronomical sum back then, perfectly designed to bankrupt independent journalism and ensure only government-approved voices survived.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to chew on. Think about the incredible, exhausting struggle of those activists back in 1977. Their leaders locked up, their groups banned, their safety nets destroyed, and their presses stopped. It begs a really powerful question. When a government outlaws the very organizations and newspapers that give a people their voice, can resistance ever truly be silenced? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.